Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad you're here. I had no clue how many people would arrive, and the perfect number of people have arrived. So I'm very glad you're here. I'm very glad you heard about this. You see me holding a microphone, but it doesn't sound like I'm speaking into a microphone. So this is for the camera, for the video that we'll share with you and whoever else wants to see it. So that's the deal with the microphone. I'll let the panelists introduce themselves, but I just want to say in front of everyone, thank you all so much for spending your evening with us and sharing about your experience with us. And I want to commend all of you for showing up. I think many of you are psychology majors or considering it, and the fact that you're here is probably a testament to how seriously you're taking this goal of yours. So much respect for showing up and kind of getting all the details about what you can do with a psychology degree. And that's what this evening is all about. So I'll introduce myself and a couple of my colleagues. My name's Nick Fortino, as some of you know. I teach psychology here at Gavilan full-time, and I can speak to these questions in another time, but tonight's about the panelists. But I'm accessible to you if you ever want to pick my brain about my experience. I'd be happy to share it with you. I'll introduce you to my colleague as well, Paul Daumert. He's also a psychology instructor here at Gavilan. I'm sure he's also happy to share about his experience. This is Daisy Lopez Jimenez. She is our career and academic pathways specialist. So she's for all psych majors who are looking to transfer and study psychology at another university. She's the person to talk to. This is the Dean of Social Sciences and Fine Arts at Gavilan, Carla Johnson. Thank you for showing up and supporting us. No pressure to stay the whole time. I know you got probably a kid at home waiting for you, but family stuff. But thank you for showing up for however long you want to stay. I'm sure you probably saw snacks outside the door. Feel free to go get some. We have a lot, so please help me eat it all. So at this point, I will let the panelists introduce themselves and speak to the first prompt, which is to please introduce yourself, tell us about the work that you do, and talk to us about how this work is fulfilling to you. So since the microphone is closest to you, Lexia, I'm going to let you start.
We're not starting on the right side.
That's why we sat in the middle.
Okay. All right. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Lexi. I am currently an AMFT. I have all my hours, and I will be taking the test in January. So I technically took the test already and failed it once. So there's that. But I'll take it again in January. Let's see. The work that I currently do, right now I'm working at a residential. Before that, I worked at a private practice. Before that, I worked at a psych facility. And before that, I did my practicum internship at a community mental health site. How is this work fulfilling to me? I think that I mean, kind of like probably we all have the default, like, I care about helping people. But I think I also really like helping people find out like more about themselves, like why they are doing the things that they're doing, and like where these things come from, and about like being better versions of themselves, or being able to really understand themselves and where things come from, and how they can kind of interact with the people in their life better and in a healthier way. So that would be me. That's me in a nutshell, sort of.
Just even though it might be obvious, what is an AMFT?
AMFT is an associate for marriage and family therapy. Yes, associate marriage family therapist. I also actually technically have my APCC as well. I got dual license, dual track, getting dual licensed. And so I have all of my hours for both. I'm still getting the rest of my weeks for APCC. So I'll finish those up in May.
And what is APCC stand for?
Associate Professional Clinical Counselor.
Awesome.
Cool. Nice. All right, someone else's turn. You're welcome. You're next.
Thanks.
The true person that was supposed to go first.
Okay. Hello. Good evening. My name is Amanda Geip. I am the Assistant Director for the Health and Human Services Agency in San Benito County. The work that I do is social work based. I started my career in protective services as a social worker, child protective services, and so I investigated allegations of child abuse and did that for several years, five or 6 years, from the beginning of the child welfare system to kind of what happens after there's court involvement. And then I became a court supervisor for a while. And then I shifted into program management in county government, and I ran the reentry program in San Mateo County. This is for high risk of recidivism folks who have very serious mental health, medical health, and have criminogenic features. So folks that have a lot of complexities to re-entering society post-release from prison or jail. I ran that program for about 7 years. It was a kind of a cutting-edge program that came out of realignment and did a lot of really great work in terms of helping folks get jobs and reintegrate back into society. We had a broad-scale multidisciplinary team that I was responsible for. We had job developers, vocational coaches, social workers, alcohol and drug counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists, and medical personnel on site as well. And so we had a wraparound comprehensive program that I ran for a long time, and I worked pretty dynamically with multiple county or government agencies: probation, sheriff, correctional health, behavioral health, health services, and I was human services, sitting at a multidisciplinary team table. So helping to lead policy in that space, talk about how we can reduce systems barriers to services, and really helping folks work through all those systems as seamlessly as we can, which is really challenging because our systems are designed to be really difficult instead of really helpful, especially for folks that have quite a few things going on all at the same time. So I spent a long time doing that, and I got really good at kind of working with these multi-agencies at a high level. I was working with a lot of directors and executives in our county administration, and San Mateo County is a relatively large county. From there, I became the director of planning and evaluation in Santa Cruz County. So I went from being a people person to a data nerd. From working with a lot of folks, I went to quality control, QC, analytics. I oversaw business analytics, and so looking at all of our governmental systems and how we pull data out of it. I learned all about budget and the administrative side of the house. How do we run and fund these programs to help people? Because I was really curious about how we could do better, right? What are these policies and things that are holding us in place in order for these systems to keep working how they're working, right? You kind of got to understand the background of how services are delivered, which was a stretch for me because I love working with people. I love doing direct social work, working with our families, working with adults that had a lot of barriers, and just really showing up for them every day. And just being that one human, they'd come in and be like, hey, how are you, too? And that, just getting them to show up was one of the biggest things. So when we talk about how this work is fulfilling to me, it was really fulfilling because I had this thing with my team where I said, sometimes we just need a ping. For example, we worked with an individual who was cycling in and out of local incarceration over and over and over again. And our only goal was to get them to show up to probation one time. We had a pizza party after 2.5 years when we got them to show up to probation. But we pinged it. We finally got them to show up to probation after working in and out of custody with them and really trying to make that happen. But that one ping meant the world to not only me, but my team and that person who actually ended up managing their mental health, staying sober, going to school, getting a degree, and getting a job, which is rad. And that's fulfilling. And when we got the postcard that had their graduation invitation, that is still up on the wall in our back office in San Mateo, and they tell me that it's still there. Now, as I said, I'm the assistant director of San Benito County Health and Human Services. So I took all of the kind of field experience with social work, the administration, and now I'm kind of the top, right under the assistant, right under the director. We have 5 deputy directors, I have program managers, and I have line staff or supervisors and staff that all report to me. So my job is really making sure everything works the way it should between adult protective services, child protective services, in-home supportive services, public health. We're a health system as well, so ensuring that all of our public health is being met. Disaster response. I've been in a lot of our emergency operations center during the mass floods, helping folks, making sure that they're housed, helping during the pandemic. Being a disaster service worker has been a really big thing in government these last few years. Making sure our public assistance, the SNAP issue that we just went through with the federal government, I was responsible for ensuring that all of our elder and children in our county had food, making sure that we were working with food banks and that folks were getting those services to them. And then just making sure our daily operations work and that we're being good partners with all of our local agencies. I've been in this role for about 1.5 years, so I'm still learning San Benito County, but I do live and work there, and it's been great so far. But it's the same level of fulfillment, showing up every day in a leadership role and helping to help our staff help the community, right? My role has shifted from direct service and shaping programs to kind of overseeing the big things and making sure, like, we just got a $1.4 million grant to put a system in place for our homeless and housing, right? I was part of the administration of that and helping to support the application of that and ensuring that we as an agency have what we need to support the work locally. I talked for quite a bit, but that's me. You told me we had like 1.5 hours. I was like, how long are we doing this for? But I think I answered all the questions.
I'm just glad I went before you now.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to follow that. Good grief. Wow. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Yoshiko Matsushita Arao, and my pronouns are she and her. And I just want to first thank Dr. Nick for inviting me tonight, and also thank Dr. Paul for being here, and for all of you to be here. It's a pleasure to be here at Gavilan College, so just thank you. My role is very similar to I imagine with Nick and Paul. I'm a full-time psychology professor at Fortino College, and I have been teaching for longer than most of you have been alive. So it's my 26th year. I absolutely love it. It's the dream job. This is why full-time tenure-track positions do not open up very often, is because they're such fabulous jobs. It's a lot of fun. I do the 5 classes. I teach 3 intro classes. I have human sexuality. I have abnormal psychology. And I'm just happy every single day to show up and see my students. Absolutely love my students. They're very much like all of you, very dedicated, very determined. And I'll talk a little bit about this later, but I was also a community college graduate, and so I know what happens and how important this level of education is. And so, yeah, my dedication to the community college system is very, very high. I think the thing that's most, when you ask me what's the most fulfilling, is of course my students. I love my students. Next semester, 3 of my former Hartnell students will be teaching psychology alongside me. Wow. Yeah. So it's amazing. So they were like you. They were at community college. They got their bachelor's. They got their master's. And now I'm going to be teaching with them. So talk about amazing, right? To be able to see that full circle. It really is quite incredible. And then when I go out into the community, there's people who work at rape crisis, who were my former students, suicide prevention. I mean, pretty much all the NAMI, all the local agencies, I get to see my students over and over again. And I've had over 10,000 now, so sometimes they'll say, oh, I took you. Do you remember me? I'm kind of, oh, well, actually, I can't remember everybody, but, I hope it was a good experience. So I just want that I'm very, very happy with what I do. And I'm happy to be here. So thank you so much for having me.
Wow. It's my turn. Well, I brought my notes as basically they're not only notes, they're my emotional support animal. So bear with me because I will be looking at these. It's not that I don't remember what I do or what my name is, but you go blank. There's psychology. You guys know that it's true, the cognitive freeze. So I'm going to start a little bit different. So what happens when an associate marriage and family therapist, who's also an introvert and a highly sensitive person in front of a class, what happens? Honestly, all the nervous system theory becomes real very fast. My sympathetic nervous system is early. It's like, move on, girl, you need to do something. My parasympathetic system texts me running late. And my vagus nerve is like, girl, breathe. So, Uh, as an introvert and a highly sensitive person, presenting feels intense. The lights, the energy in the room, the attention, my mind going blank. Looking at Mr. Grant and remembering that he was my professor. He was my English professor. He doesn't probably remember me because it's been such a long time. But I need to throw that out there because I'm nervous. And when you're nervous, you talk more and you say things that, again. So what's the beautiful part of all of this? I get to model exactly what I teach. So I ground myself. How do I ground myself? I really have discovered that for me, the key is the breathing. I have done many breathing exercises. Maybe I'll talk a little bit more later, but I also I'm an associate marriage and family therapist, and I also took a yoga training program, which for me, when you guys hear yoga, I'm sure I'm going to make an assumption that you guys think about the poses, right? When you say yoga, we think that it's all about poses. But for me, it was about the breathing. There's a branch in yoga that's called pranayama, and then we focus on the breath. And that for me was the key. So that I incorporate that with my clients as well. But let me get back to my grounding. Before, when I would used to get like this, I would get really nervous and I would get really mad at myself, and I would say like, oh, why can't I just be normal? Why? And I would get really mad because I would think that there was something wrong with me. But one day I discovered that it was actually my nervous system working perfectly. It's trying to protect myself. It's trying to say, there's danger. Is there danger? Like, look, are you okay? So in reality, it's protecting me. It loves me. And that's beautiful. So I'm going to invite you. I'm going to first and foremost model a breathing exercise that I love. It's called 478. Have you guys ever heard the breathing 478? It's one of my favorite ones because it keeps me accountable, right? It's the mind tends to wander like, there's, again, like I mentioned, there's different breathing exercises. And this one's one of my favorite because it keeps me grounded. Not only it works on the nervous system, but it also brings me to the present moment. So I'm going to model that for you and see if there's any difference in me. Right now, there's a lot of adrenaline, right? My voice is a little shaky. My hands, I feel like it's shaky. And another thing that I do for that is, because it's adrenaline, right? I need to get it out. I'm sorry. I need to get it out. And a way of getting it out, too, is, let me give you a little bit of art therapy. I can ask a question to this drawing. I can also find a title for this drawing. So that's another that I just modeled for you. So let me model the 478 breathing exercise. And again, see if you notice any difference in me. I'm going to count. It's difficult to count and do the exercise at the same time. So I was thinking of asking Dr. Fortino, because he was my professor in the past. He was my professor of psychology. He was my professor of yoga, because he used to teach yoga. And I was thinking, I'm going to ask him to count for me. Okay, 4 seconds, hold 7 seconds, exhale 8 seconds. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that and then invite all of you guys to that with me. But I'm going to first want to model that for you. So I'm just going to inhale and exhale to prepare, and then you're
4, 7, 8.
inhale 4, hold 7, exhale through the mouth 8. I love it. It's like a little reset for me. So I'm going to invite you to, all of us, do one, if you feel comfortable. And when I close my eyes, it's nothing mysterious or mystical. It's just because I'm trying to shut down stimulation, right? So shutting down visual stimulation, go in, and then I'm going to count myself, and we can all, yes. So if I invite you, if you guys feel like doing it with me, it would be amazing because you will be supporting me as well. So I'm gonna invite you to release the tension in your shoulders. Release the tension in your forehead, around your eyes. Release the tension in your jaw. I'm gonna ask you to take one more deep inhale and exhale. And if you have your eyes closed, open them up slowly. So, the question was, what do I do? And I hope I modeled something that I do. I'm an associate marriage and family therapist. Associate means that I've completed my education, I've completed my training. I am now seeing clients while I am being supervised. I'm working towards my license. It requires 3,000 hours to get your license. I'm about halfway there. So, working on that. What I do is basically I look at how relationships, family patterns, culture, and environment shape the person's well-being. In my role, I support people throughout difficult moments in their lives, whether the stress, relationship challenges, or major transitions. And what I love most about my job is really seeing the clients really utilizing the tools that they've learned in our sessions and how they learn healthier ways of coping and connecting with others. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Hey, good evening. I'm Alex Kondrakin. I'm a ACSW, which means I'm an associate clinical social worker. So I went down the social work route, not the MFT route. Right now, I'm starting to get my hours also, just like everyone else. About 500 hours, so hopefully come from 1 more months and I'll get it. The work that I do, though, is I kind of been all over the place when I got out of my master's program. I started doing permanent supportive housing, so I got to work with the unhoused population coming into a housing environment for the first time, and being able to work with them and get them connected with services. And that was like my real social work hat on. I was going around doing home visits, going up to apartments, trying to work with everybody there, trying to get people connected with services. I did that for about a year, and I found that while I really enjoyed the work and I really enjoyed the population, it just really wasn't like satisfying what I really needed, right? So from there, I went to go work at San Jose Behavioral Health, the inpatient psych hospital up north. That was a very interesting journey over there. But what I really liked about that was it really pushed me to be the better person, a better clinician than I am. I'll admit, when I was doing my first year of my permanent supportive housing work, I was a little bit more on the shy side, a little bit more fearful. But being able to be pushed to that kind of extent, to be like, no, you have to really get in there and see the people, meet them where they're at, really made me into a better clinician. And so that kind of brought me to where I am now, where I'm a clinician at San Benito Behavioral Health. And honestly, I think this is kind of where my dream is going to be at. It's like what I kind of want to be. I'm a therapist. I'm someone you come talk to and process your traumas, things that you learn new coping skills, and being able to just live the more fulfilling life that you want. And for me, the most fulfilling part, honestly, is those little aha moments, right? You're in the session, you're working with somebody, you're really talking. You've been working with this person for the next, past few months. You see a little bit of progress, you see a little bit back, right? And then for some, this one session, this was the one thing. 5 minutes before it ends, they say something very casual. You make a connection, be like, oh, that kind of reminds me. That kind of sounds similar to how you were treated by your father growing up. And they just kind of look at you like, bro, what? Those moments, those are the best moments, right? Being able to help make those connections and have people learn more about themselves. Another part of the fulfilling thing too, honestly, is I love teaching. I actually wanted to be a professor. That's like my retirement plan once I'm all done. But I love to teach, and so a lot of what therapy is also psychoeducation. I always tell people the stuff that I teach you in therapy, you don't learn anywhere else. You don't go to elementary school and they say, hey, this is how you, if you're angry, this is how you express your emotions, and this is how you can do it in a good way, or this is how you maintain your boundaries with people, or how you have assertive communication, not aggressive. They don't teach you that anywhere. You're lucky if your parents can teach you. You're lucky if your family can. So, I mean, for me, I primarily work with adults, so I see a wide range of ages. And so, to me, it feels like one of the first steps that I do with them is a lot of that psychoeducation. Hey, that feeling you've been feeling, that's you're not going crazy. That's just anxiety coming out right now, right? Your heartbeat going crazy in the middle of the night. That you're not dying. You're not dying. That's anxiety, or the sadness, right? That's a lot of normalization. I don't know. I feel like a part of being a therapist, and as by virtue of being also a social worker too, is that we need to be positive change in our world in that sense. And while mental health is being destigmatized, right? It's much more talked about, much more accepted. We're still not at that point yet. And I think that the more that we talk about this type of stuff, and the more that we make it into the main sphere of everything, right? Anxiety is not oh my God, you have anxiety or depression. It's just like you have a broken arm, right? And so part of me is just allow that normalization, just telling people, no, you're fine. Things happen to you, right? That's why you're here. I'm glad that you're here, because that means you want to take this seriously and you want to change your life. And I'm glad to be part of that journey.
Oh, what a good therapist.
Oh.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, everybody, for speaking to that. I love how well this worked out with the variety of people we have here, because we have someone with a social work background, also now practicing therapy, but we basically have a social worker, a therapist, an educator, and a program director. That's like, those are the main categories of things you can do with a psychology degree right there. And program director or program developer of some kind, educator in one context or another, therapist in one form or another, keeping in mind too that often therapists will end up specializing with certain populations, maybe children or maybe couple therapy or group therapy or grief counseling. But these are like the big categories. So I'm just so happy that it worked out like this, that we have representatives from each of those categories. And then the other one I would add is also research. Many people get a psych degree and want to really develop new knowledge about psychology. And so maybe, I don't know if any of you have research backgrounds. I know Paul's someone you can talk to. He's an experienced researcher. And then, yeah, people create content, right? Like you can create online content, you can write books, write articles. So just keeping those things in mind too. Thank you, Orales, too, for bringing in an experiential component into this. I appreciate that. And then I'll just remind you too that I put a piece of paper out, maybe you got it, where you can write down questions that you want to ask each panelist. And what we'll do is in the final 30 minutes of our event tonight, we'll open it up for you to approach panelists individually. So I'll raise my next question, which is, can you speak to us about your education journey? And then there's some follow-up questions that you can speak to. So, exactly which degrees have you earned? How long did it take you to complete your degrees? And if you want to speak to this, how were you able to afford it? Did you find scholarship opportunities? Did you take on debt? I know debt is like, a scary thing to think about. And so if you want to speak to that, if you did take on debt, has it been super stressful to pay it back? And then I can add a little bit at the end about things to keep in mind if you do take out student loans, like income-based repayments and public service loan forgiveness. I know I took on loans to complete my PhD, and I've been working for a nonprofit organization in the form of a community college, and I'm now in my 10th year. And the thing with public service loan forgiveness is if you work for a nonprofit for 10 years full-time while making payments on your loans, your entire loan is forgiven. So just many things like this to know about, as you're making decisions about whether to take on loans and what degrees to pursue. So anyway, I'll give the mic to Amanda and let you speak to the education question.
So, which degrees have I earned? I have I should say this. I grew up in Texas in the South in a single mother, single parent home. I literally grew up in a double wide out on like an acre of property in a very small place. It took me 7 years to get my associate's degree in Texas because I was working 3 jobs and I was paying for school on my own. So that one took me a long time to get. When I came out to California, where my family has been, it took me a year and a half to get my bachelor's degree. I got my bachelor's degree in criminal justice. I'm not a psychology major, but I do have a bachelor's in criminal justice administration. And then I was going to go into law enforcement, and I had a medical condition pop up, and I wasn't able to work for the federal government as I had intended. So I went to one of my very trusted professors and said, I think I'm going to be a lawyer. And she said, no, have you heard of social work? And I was like, what? What is that? And I really genuinely didn't even know what it was, but I knew I had wanted to work for the FBI and work for missing children. That's what I had wanted to do. That was my career. And I was like, I'm so lost. Like, I don't know how to do this anymore. This is what I've been working for. This is what I wanted. And she's like, you should look into social work. In fact, there's this thing called Title IV, and you should look at that. And I'm like, what is that? So I went and looked it up. Title IV is a federal grant that pays for your master's degree. And with it, it's kind of like in the military. When you serve the military, you get out, you can do university, like you can get your credits. Title IV means the federal government will basically, if you're selected, each university that has these programs gets a certain number of slots. You go through a process. Your master's degree is paid for. You just have to give 2 years of service to Child Protective Services in a local county government because it's such a hard thing to fill. And I looked it up, and I was like, this is rad. I think I can do this. It was funny. At the time, there's a Title IV coordinator at Cal State East Bay who I was very tenacious is the word that she said, because I was determined to have my master's paid for and to get an opportunity. They had screened me out because I had no social work background, right? I was a criminal justice major. I was like working in, admin jobs. They were like, this isn't a good match for you. I was so pervasive in calling and going, how do I get an interview? 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 Please interview me. Please interview me. She finally said, you are the most tenacious student I have ever given. I'm just going to allow you at the last, you can come in. And in fact, when I walked in front of the panel and I did my interview, she was like, this student isn't in your binder. She's not even supposed to be here, but I'm allowing her this opportunity. And I was like, all right. So I delivered, and I ended up walking out. She was like, wow, that was one of the best interviews of the day. I'm so glad we gave you a chance. And I'm like, this is awesome. I got Title IV. I worked and got placed with San Mateo County and worked for over 6 years there in Child Protective Services. So I did my 2 years and then some. So my master's was pretty much paid for. And then as I was in my master's, I thought about going the route of licensure. And I looked at it, at doing the individual licensing, and decided that it wasn't really a path for me. I'm more policy-oriented. I'm more systems-oriented. I do like direct service, but I felt like my calling was not in one-on-ones with people, but was in lots of people, right? And really engaging with lots of people and systems. So in my professional career, as I was looking at a doctorate was a personal goal. I wanted some sort of a doctoral degree, and I wasn't sure which way I wanted to go. I thought about research, but then I wanted something that was more applied in the field that I work in. Research is helpful. It is great. It gives us a great evidence-based context for how we deliver program and what we do, and I'm in awe of the people that can read for days and like really analyze and assess and do that. I think it's awesome. I wanted a degree that would help me help people in a policy perspective and in delivery perspective. So I opted to go to USC in their Doctorate of Social Work program. And it really helps to build connections and bridges across the country as far as what a lot of my peers are doing, either in government or in nonprofits or all over, and kind of looking at the cutting edge of what are the wicked, I call them kind of the wicked problems in social work that we have to solve, like homelessness, social isolation, technology divides, and how are we systematically and system-wise looking at our world and how can we deconstruct these things that we've created in big policy sweeping ways, right? Nationally, globally, whatever that may look like. And so I chose to focus there. It took me about 3.5 years to get my DSW. My dissertation was I created a multi-systems framework for local government to reduce silos and did a cost analysis to show how much this would actually reduce taxpayer input and taxpayer dollars into these systems if we worked more unified. And I created a framework based on a lot of different evidence-based practices that would work to help make our systems actually work for people instead of making people work for systems, right? And so that's kind of where I chose to focus my time. But it took me about 3.5 years to get this. And how was I able to? I think I am in a lot of student debt because of my doctorate and my bachelor's. Those two got me pretty good. USC is not a cheap school. I should have said this earlier, but the other thing I do on the side, or that's, I guess, my side hustle, I'm a lecturer for Cal State East Bay in the criminal justice department, and I have taught for the social work department. I teach women in criminal justice, family violence, victimology, introduction to criminal justice. I've taught legal issues in social work as well. And so every now and then I'll pick up some extra classes to help pay off my student loans. That's a way for me to, one, I get to engage and share what I've learned and what I know with students, which I do love. I love to teach and use my real world experience in the classroom and help folks kind of understand how we can work together to make things better. But that's really how I've been trying to pay it off a little at a time. I just got my doctorate in 2025, last year, May. Sorry, I defended in March, and it was very stressful. But I graduated May 2024, not this past May, the May before. Sorry. 2024, it's been a blur. So I just recently got my doctorate, and that's going to take me a long time to pay off. But I am destined to do it. I've determined I'm going to, and I'll keep doing different things until I get there. So I think I got all of them.
Okay, I don't teach anything. I just learn things. So I would say that my like psych kind of journey started pretty early on. Probably since like junior high, I very much knew that I wanted to be involved with psychology and do something in this field. And then in high school, I finally was able to take a psych class. And I had the wackiest psych teacher, and she was amazing. And she did all kinds of like, I don't know, I could really get into it, but she did all kinds of really interesting, weird things. And I was like, this is exactly why I'm taking this class, because math doesn't do this. And so I took that in high school. And then in college, I kind of didn't know exactly kind of what I wanted to do because I didn't really know what you could do with psychology. I just really liked psychology. And so I was very much interested in learning about it, studying it, practicing it, all the things, but not necessarily knowing what to do with job searching. So I looked at all of the things, and I didn't want to do anything clinical. I wanted to do therapy. I didn't want to diagnose, not knowing that, like, you know, therapy is clinical. So I looked at all the things, and I can't remember all of them, but I didn't want to do any of them, except I was like, therapy is the closest thing that I can think of that is, like, mostly aligned. So you totally, for the most part, still diagnose. So there's that. So, and I got very, very lucky. My parents paid for my bachelor's degree, but I did go to Chabot College. I went to community college for the first 2 years to try and save money. I lived at home. It wasn't too far, so I commuted. I, mostly ate meals at home. And I also worked. I worked since I started high school. And after I got out of high school, I worked probably at least 2 jobs at a time to start saving up for grad school. And then also I worked like 3 jobs in grad school to pay for my grad degree. So I got a lot of help, and I also worked my butt off, but I don't have any debt. So it's doable. There is that. You might just lose like a buttload of sleep. I don't know how much cussing is allowed here, but you might like lose a lot of sleep. You might be really tired, but you're probably going to do that with school anyway. So just depends like how much stress you want to go through, and if you want to be working more on the beginning end or the later end, paying all that back. But regardless, there are a lot of options and ways to do it. It's completely up to you. Let's see. Oh yeah, so I got, when I was at Chabot, in the process of getting all the classes that I needed to transfer, which, by the way, there is the TAG. I don't know if y'all know about that, but the TAG thing is the transfer guarantee. So if you haven't seen a counselor or don't know about it, go talk to someone. I was trying to do that and then got screwed over, but in the process, I got 2 AAs. I got my AA in liberal arts and psychology. Yeah. A in liberal arts and psychology. And then I went to UC Davis and I got my bachelor's. I majored in psychology and minored in sexuality. Minored in sociology and sexuality. And then I did, so that took me 4 years. And then I did 2 years and a few months of master's program. And I went to Palo Alto University. And that was great. It was hybrid. It was online and in person, which was a great mix. My best friend I met at the program. We still talk. A lot of great people. And so it was a little bit hard. I graduated right when COVID hit, and then took a gap year, and then went to get my master's. Let's see, I'm not paying back any debt, so that part is not stressful. But living at home was stressful. Trying to do all the things was stressful. So yeah, I mean, it was stressful, just maybe different kinds of things. Trying to think if there's anything else I can think of. No, I think that's all the things on that little bullet point.
Thank you.
Of course.
All right. There's some pretty impressive people on this panel, by the way. I just wanted to, yeah. All right. So I basically have gone through the entire California college system. I started at MPC. I was born and raised in Seaside. I went to Monterey High. And both my older brother and my older sister were college age as well. So I knew I was not going to go straight anywhere. And I had applied. I got in, but it was like, that's okay. MPC was like one of the best experiences of my life. It's why I'm at Hartnell. 3 of my best professors were at MPC, and I'm in contact with one of them very closely. But it really did teach me that a lot of the decisions that we make in our life is right around that time. And the community colleges, of course, we have more college students than any of the other systems. And we have people who have all different levels of abilities and life circumstances. And so I really felt like if I'm going to come back and make an impact, that's where I want to be. And so that's why I'm there. So I did that for 2 years. I also played volleyball, which was a blast. And then after that, I went to Fresno State. And partly why I chose Fresno State was my sister was going there for her nursing degree. And so we got to live together. And it's very cheap in Fresno. A lot of people are worried about the expenses of living somewhere. Fresno is really dirt cheap. It's very hot, though. Right. And it's very foggy. And it gets very cold, which coming from, Monterey and Seaside, it's like, whoa, it's quite a difference. But I had a great experience there, too. And I would just really encourage you, pretty much all the CSUs are great programs for psychology. I haven't heard of any that I have not been good. And I know many of you worry about, like, where should I go to school next? No offense, but where you go for your bachelor's degree doesn't really matter that much. People worry about where I should go, and I'm like, what really matters is where you go for graduate school. That's really where you should be focused on what's the most important program that matches me. because to me that makes all the difference. Whether you go to Stanford or you go to Fresno State, you're basically taking the same courses in psychology. So, like I said, try not to stress out about that one because it's not as important. And so I did 2.5 years at Fresno State. I worked for a while in substance abuse residential facility and found I do not want to be in that work. It was like killing me. I was going to burn out. The clientele, as many of you know, it was like a revolving door with most people not able to be successful. And that was just too painful for me. I have to do something else. So decided I'm going to go back to graduate school. And so I got my master's in education and in counseling psychology. And then I was able to get my PhD also at UC Santa Barbara there. And so counseling psychology is really interesting. I know a lot of you have heard of clinical psychology. Many of you may have never heard of counseling psychology. And frankly, I hadn't either. And at that time, there were only 2 counseling psych programs in California. So I'm like, well, I'm going to apply those both. It was UC Santa Barbara or Stanford. That was it. Because I knew for myself, I did not want to work with the severely mentally ill. I went to a locked facility for a field trip for my abnormal psych class, and I'm like, I do not belong here, right? So I have the utmost respect for those of you who do, because it's hard. It was very, very hard, and it was very painful for me to see. At that time, I really didn't feel that we were helping that clientele very well. We just did not know very much, and it was hard to see that. So it took me a while, however, to get my degrees. So as I said, my MPC 2 years, my bachelor's 2.5 more years. My master's degree was just 2 years, and my master's degree, frankly, it was busier. But it wasn't necessarily really that much harder. It was just like I'd walk in and I'm 3 chapters behind because they didn't pass out the syllabus and tell you. But I can work. I'm like, that's not a problem. I will work my tail off. The doctoral program was a whole nother level. Okay. And I'm like, I don't know if I really belong in this one. But I did that. It took me 6 years, honestly. And it's only supposed to take 4. So it took me 6. I had some physical injuries. I had things like, some radial tunnel syndrome, carpal tunnel kind of stuff. I couldn't type on the computer for longer than 10 minutes in a day. And I was working on my dissertation. It's very hard if you can only focus on 10 minutes to type, and then you have to take a break because then your mind is like elsewhere. And then I'm like, what was I typing about? What was I thinking? So that's partly why it took me 6 years. Financially, I came out actually pretty darn well. My parents supported me through my associates and my bachelor's degree. I did take some loans for the master's degree. That did take me a while to pay off. And for the doctoral program, I got a fellowship. That was $20,000 a year for 4 years. So, and I had not anticipated that I was going to be able to get that. So there is money out there. And I also married my high school sweetheart, and he's an engineer. So that was very helpful too. So yeah, so he was basically paying for the rest of it. So yeah, really coming out of this level of school with really not that much debt. But there is money out there too, and I'm really happy that the other panelists are talking about many other ways that you can do that. Because I know many of you think there's no way I'm going to get a doctorate, right? How am I ever going to pay for that, right? But just to let you know, there's also programs around the country where, frankly, they don't really look like many of us that would love to have you there because they don't have diversity. And so just consider, if you can consider going elsewhere other than being in California, that could be a real significant advantage. Like I had a student who went to North Dakota, and basically it was a full ride because they're like, yeah, we don't have a lot of people like you here. And so don't let that stop you is what I want to say. And if you love psychology, go for it, right? If this is a job you're going to be doing for the rest of your life, don't you want to enjoy it? Like for me, I'm happy every day. I'm like, I get paid to do things that I love. So yeah, I'm glad that you guys are here and that you're hearing this information because I didn't get this information before I went into the program. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. So I'm going to start with high school. I have no idea how I graduated high school because I didn't speak English. I was able to understand it, but I was never able to speak it. So no idea how I graduated high school. When I graduated, I didn't want anything to do with school, went to work right away. But I started working at the outlets, and at the outlets, like a lot of people would come to Gavilan. They would work part-time and they would come to school full-time. And I thought, maybe I'm going to give school a second chance. And I did. I gave Gavilan, I was there. I was a student sitting there. And now it's very it's an honor just to be able to be here and speak to you guys, because like I said, I was there. I it was really difficult. It took me a little bit more than 7 years to get my 2-year degree, because I was also working at Gavilan. I was full-time employee working here. I worked at the counseling department as an administrative assistant, and it was wonderful working here. I worked at Gavilan for 10 years, took classes at night, one class at a time. I would drop them because English, especially because I had created like a mental block with English. I was like afraid of it. For the life of me, I could not write a essay. Like introduction, middle, and just like I could not write an essay. So I would drop them. I was placed on probation, and it was very, very difficult. If I look at my associate's degree, my bachelor's degree, and my master's, the hardest was my associate's degree. Finally, I did it. I got my AA degree, and then had an existential crisis, thinking, okay, you're in your late 20s, early 30s. Is this what you want to do for the rest of your life? And again, for some reason, I always felt this calling for psychology. I always felt like naturally very observant. And I always wanted to, I had like so many questions. Like I wanted to know like why people do the things that they do. Why do they act the way that they act? Why do they feel? Why do they fall in love with certain people and certain people they don't? And then, I took these classes, and of course I figured it out. And okay, I got a lot of my answers, a lot of my questions answered. But I did get my AA. I started basic reading, basic writing, basic math, everything that I didn't learn in high school. And again, it took me a lot of many years. So then I decided to leave my full-time job here at Gavilan, because I didn't want to take another 7+ years to get my bachelor's degree, because I was already in my early 30s, and it's like, okay, I'm going to be retiring by the time I start. So it was really difficult because I had a support system, I had my benefits, and in regards to payment, Gavilan, if you work at Gavilan, you get your classes free. So it was, for me, my associate's degree was for free. It's not for free because I was working here and I was doing a wonderful job, but I didn't have to pay for my education. Then I went to California State University in Monterey Bay, which was wonderful experience. I loved it, the ocean, the breeze, the campus, the classes. And again, that was already in the field that I love, and I'm passionate about, which is psychology. So I got my bachelor's in psychology, and that's where I got really clear about the path that I wanted to take. Like you were talking about clinical psychology, and like it was interesting, and yes, I'm very curious about, like for example, forensic psychology, why people are, murder and all these things, and all other pathologies, right? But for me, I wanted to go more into the health part of it, health psychology. Health psychology is more preventive care, more how to deal with stress, how to educate people to take care of themselves better, to prevent these pathologies. So that's where my love of health psychology grew. And for that one, I got financial aid. So I was very lucky to get that also covered through financial aid, and there's no debt there. That took me, the program's 2 years, and I did it successfully in 2 years. It didn't take me like 3 years. My grades were all A's. Maybe I did get a C, but that was kind of a very difficult class. But everything else was A's, B's. So I felt so happy. It took me, like I said, 2 years. Then I went to get my master's in counseling psychology in Santa Clara University. And the reason that I picked Santa Clara University was because they had emphasis. They have emphasis in health psychology. And also they have emphasis in Latinx counseling, LGBTQ plus. They have emphasis in criminal justice, I believe. So for me, again, I was really torn in what if I would get health psychology. They also have Latinx counseling. So I was torn between those two, health psychology and Latinx counseling. So I decided to take both of them. So I have my master's in counseling psychology with emphasis in health psychology and Latinx, which is wonderful. I love it. That is a 3-year program. The last year is practicum, which again, it just took me 3 years. I'm very proud of myself because, again, like I said, the hardest part was my AA degree. And that one I am in debt, unfortunately. However, I work at a Discovery Counseling Center. I don't know if you guys heard of Discovery because they have actually an agreement with Gavilan College where we therapists see Gavilan College students for free. So if you guys didn't know that, you get some sessions, and you might even get me as a therapist, because I did see some Gavilan College students, which it was so rewarding for me leaving Gavilan. It was very painful, and then coming back, and you know, and then this new role is amazing, gratifying, and I want to thank you for this opportunity because it was my dream to see myself here. Um, I am in debt, but I am in a place where they allow for debt forgiveness. So I am working towards my debt forgiveness. Hopefully that will, continue. And yeah, the practicum was wonderful. I worked with elementary school children, which was such an impactful experience for me because I was working with Latinx children that had just arrived. A lot of them from Colombia for some reason, but I was seeing kids from Colombia, El Salvador, Mexico, that didn't speak English and were having a difficult time transitioning and adapting to this new environment, which for me it was really significant because I was that child and I never had that help. So I fell through the cracks basically in school structure. So me going back and helping these kids, it was like, wow. Like I felt like, okay, if there was a reason and I had a mission coming to this world, okay, I fulfilled it. I'm happy. I feel very fulfilled. So yes, that's where I went to school.
Yeah, so I too, I barely passed high school. I almost failed. I took a year off right after high school to go work, and I picked up dog poop for $7.25 an hour for about a year, and I was like, that's not really fun, honestly. I'm gonna take a hard pass on that. And then as I was kind of enrolling into Gap, I was like, okay, look, I'll just get my credits. I'll figure out what major I want to do later, right? Let's just start the process at the very least. And it took me a long time to actually get my associates. Let's see, 2012 to, I think I grew out around 5 or 6 years. 5 or 6 years taking it. I was working full time on top of that, so I was only taking maybe like 2 or 3 classes a semester. It was only until my last year that I was able to like really focus onto that. Also, Pell Grant, awesome, love that grant, man. That's amazing. That got me through That got me through Gavilan pretty much up until my last year, and I was like, okay, cool. I don't have to pay that much. Wow, nice. Especially with those book prices, man. I swear, that bookstore is taking too much. From there, once I was able to, I got my associates here not social science. It's not the psychology one. Liberal arts. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I got my associates in liberal arts, and from there I transferred over to San Jose State. I was really lucky. I had a family member, or actually a family friend who was a social worker, and that's how they kind of talked to me about getting into social work. Because when I was like getting out of high school, I was like, man, maybe I'll do psychology. That seems like pretty fun. And then she was like, don't do psychology. Just go into social work. It's more your field. It's more your vibe. It's kind of like what you're looking for. And I was like, okay, cool. And I did. And it was great. San Jose State has a really good social work program there. If you're looking into that, they have a really big, strong emphasis on culture there. And so they have this thing called the transcultural perspective. And that's like integrated in almost every single social work class you're going to take over there. They're very much about saying, how can we take the psychology and the things that we learn already now, right, and integrating the individual's culture into that, right? So that was really cool. I was able to bulldoze through that, taking classes full time. That wasn't really fun at the end there. I was really tired. But from there, I was able to just transfer right from the bachelor's straight into the master's. So I just went boom, boom, straight into San Jose State. I was like literally not even I think a semester in between pretty much. I like to tell people too that like if you get your bachelor's in social work, you're pretty much already there at your master's, right? A lot of the stuff that they're going to be talking about, it's going to feel like a repeat, right? But it's a little bit more in-depth and more application. But I do recommend everyone, like, if you are going to go towards that road, whether it be psychology or social work, go for your master's. Go for your master's. Worst comes to worst, you have a master's under your belt. You can climb higher up there. Also, if you want to get your licensure, I always like to say that's the golden ticket, because once you get your licensure, that opens up so many different doors for you. And so I highly recommend that. As my master's, that took me about 3 years. I had to take a semester off to take care of some family things, and so I hopped right back onto it. If you're going to get your master's in social work, they have a thing called a capstone project. So that's kind of like the big year, last year of your, you do a big old research paper. You can publish it if you'd like. I didn't want to because I felt too bad. I didn't want to be like, don't read my stuff, people. Don't judge it. As for how I was able to afford this, I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you. My bank account still hurts. No, I did have to take on some debts. I mostly took on debt during my later part of my bachelor's and into my master's. Currently paying it back right now. It sucks to pay it back every single month. Everyone's been talking about some really good programs, especially with the public service one. I know I've been looking into that a little bit, but I'm trying to find like the nice little spot to where I want to keep myself planted there for a while. But it's not too stressful. I know we're going to talk a little bit about kind of how, finances and kind of what we make in the field and stuff. But I feel like after I got my master's and I started working where the places that I worked at, they were able to match the kind of the price that I wanted. And I live a comfortable life at the end of the day. Right. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, our timing is great. So I'll maybe go through one more time and have you each speak to one more question, and then we'll do the thing where you can approach the panelists individually. So the question that I think many of you want to just know straight up is, how much money can I make? Like, level with me. What kind of livelihood is possible for me? And so they've all brought their W-2s, and you're going to get to analyze their finances. They have their bank account passwords and everything, so you're going to get to check it out. So in all honesty, and in all seriousness, be as private, of course, as you wish to be. And the truth is, I know for myself, my income is different year by year, right? There's always opportunities to like pick up extra work here and there. But the question is, what can a person in a position like yours generally expect to make? How much money can a person generally expect to make in your line of work? And as well as the money question, that's not all we care about. We also care about time. So the question of, how much free time do you have? What does your work-life balance look like? And anything along this line of the livelihood question that you'd like to speak to. So I'll go to you again, Amanda.
All right. So there's this beautiful thing when you work in government. It's called Transparent California. You can Google me and find out how much I make. So the range for the assistant director position is between $76 to $87 per hour. I make $180,000 a year in my position. As a social worker, I was making around $45, $50, $60 an hour. With my master's degree, I started around there, 45-ish, I want to say. You can look it up. Literally, go to Transparent California, find your county, go look up a social worker position. It'll tell you your pay range. It's very regimented. It's like local civil service requirements. It's part of government. You can literally go look it up. Anything you're interested in, behavioral health, anything in human services, you can look at all the different roles and see what they are, what the requirements are, and how much you'll make. So that's really what I make in a year. And what does my schedule look like? Well, in my position, it's very hectic. I spend a lot of time in meetings. I'm available. I'm on call 24 hours a day to respond to anything and everything. I am an executive. So my job is to look out for the entire county in my role and my position. So that means if there's a disaster or emergency, I'll respond no matter what time it is. If there's a protective service matter, like life happens outside of 8 to 5 for when you work with people. And so we have to be responsive to what those needs are at my level. And so I am. I have to travel a lot too, so I go to Sacramento once a month because we have state meetings, and my job is to advocate at the state and federal level for what our local needs are, and to do work there. So I do travel monthly, typically, depending on how the meeting schedule plays out. I also have to go to conferences for some of our big vendors, like some of our large programs where we need to really understand and stay coordinated and connected for how we're executing federal policy locally. So I do have that. Do I have a satisfying amount of free time? Good question. I've been saying this for so long. I've been a single mom for a long time. I just got married in September. So I'm very excited. He's a wonderful human. But I was a single mom for a really long time. And so I took the San Benito job to be with my kids because I live and work there, and commuting was taking a lot of time, even in director positions in Santa Cruz. And commuting over there, I was just, even though we were hybrid, it was still a lot of time away from my kids. So I took a job where I can drive home and be 7 minutes away from my office, which was the first time ever in my career I had like a 7-minute commute. But I feel like I worked really hard to get there, and it's nice that I have that now. So I definitely in the last year and a half have had more work-life balance because I live and work in the same place, and I strategically positioned myself to where I could make the amount of money that I would need to make and be locally and at the right level to where I could do all of those things. And all the stars just aligned for me in the last year after 17 years in government. So it took me a while to get there, but I feel like I'm in a place where my kids are in middle school and I can be there for their high school years and be with them and be local. And so I'm finding a really healthy work-life balance now. But when I was starting in my career, no. Protective services is 24 hours. Like for the first 5 years, you work a lot. And kids are after 5. Like if you're on an emergency call, you're out on that call until it's over. I've been up for 24 hours straight with families. So like in my early years of my career, no, there wasn't a lot of good work-life balance, especially in that space. As I moved up, it's gotten better, but it's still been challenging. So.
Right before you pass the mic, I meant to say, along with speaking to this question, if you could offer a piece of advice to psychology majors, what might you say?
What is my piece of advice? Stick with it. We need more people who care about people working in all areas of our country, period. When you care about people and you show up for the people that are right in front of you, for your community, for those that are around you, in whatever capacity you choose, having the knowledge of psychology and human behavior and how we work and how we engage and support each other is mission critical to the success of any business, government, nonprofit, system, whatever it is. It's built and comprised of people. So I need more people in my world who care and think about people in these ways, right? Who really genuinely show up. So my word of advice is stay there, because in this world, we need so many more people who care and who care enough to really learn and just sit in spaces with one another and say, I see you, right? For how you show up and who you are. And I think it's critical. And I think there's so much you can do with it. Even I've been asked to come to the private sector with my government skills and my social work skills, because social workers are needed in private industry too, right? Where we have people doing work. So that's my 2 cents. Is if you're gonna, and keep in mind, I'm not a psychology major, but I have the social work and working with folks, and I understand the mechanics of all that is in this space, and I think it's critical personally. So, there's my 2 cents, my words of advice.
Okay. I am a very unfiltered person, so I will just be like incredibly transparent with all of the things. When I started, I worked at a locked facility. Me and Alex actually worked in the same spot, San Jose Behavioral Health. Yeah, it's a locked psych facility. They have the inpatient and outpatient side, so I worked in both inpatient and outpatient. And there I made $40 an hour. I made $40 an hour working at the job that I worked at before that, which did not require any degree whatsoever, except I think potentially a bachelor's, but maybe not. So I worked at a hospital and I worked there for, years. And so I got a raise, whatever. It was a great paying job, but I worked at that position like right out of high school almost. Yeah, actually. So I did not have to have any type of degree except for like high school diploma / GED to be able to work that job. And I was making at the point of switching over $40 an hour. So it was really discouraging to start working at San Jose Behavioral Health with my master's. And they were like, yeah, we're okay. I can match that $40. So that was unfortunate. However, like $40 is really nice to make. $40 an hour is great. But it felt kind of insulting because I'm like, I have a lot of degrees and you need me, by the way, and this is like a really important job. So like, it'd be nice to make more than that. And there, I think work-life balance was good. It was, standard Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30, and it was a great time. And then kind of like all mental health kind of places, we get very overworked, very understaffed. And so it very quickly became much longer hours, much more expectation, deadlines that are impossible to make, and like just literal impossible expectations. And oh, by the way, no raise. So that was stressful. I will say at the very least, right? I could go home and then my job ended. Like I went home and I didn't have to worry about my patients or clients anymore. So that was nice. I switched over to doing private practice once I got all of my hours, because I was like, I want to make my own schedule. And I want to work less and I want to make more and blah, blah, blah. None of that happened. So I ended up working, I like sort of worked the schedule that I wanted, but I ended up working like a range of 9 to 10 hours. And so sometimes I would see a client at like 11 a.m. and then I would end with my last client at like 9:30. So yeah, and it wasn't like I was seeing clients all in there. It was like I saw 3 clients all day. And so it was just like, it was a lot. So that work-life balance was like a little bit horrendous. I made a little bit more. I made about $44 an hour, which was nice. And private practice, a kind of good amount would be seeing about 5 clients a day. Seeing the 6th client a day is like, what do you really have to offer that 6th client after you have seen, very intense and individual for hour after hour after hour? So just kind of depends. In the office, I was seeing like 8 to 9 clients just back to back to back to back. So that was a lot. Mondays were really, really hard. And so I was supposed to be making more. I was supposed to have my set schedule that I really liked. I had my, 3-day weekends, and it just kind of didn't pan out. So now I work at a residential. It's back to the Monday. Actually, I work Sunday through Thursday, 8 to 4:30. So it's back to that. I love it. It's amazing. I now make $47 an hour. I have a friend who I worked with at San Jose Behavioral Health who just started working at the county. He says that he's making about $70 an hour as an AMFT. I know, right? Yeah. So I just apply there. So I don't know. That's like $140K a year. Just, yeah, that's a lot. So I talked to him today actually, and he kind of like corrected himself. He's like currently making 61 or something like that, which is still like a buttload of money. And I would absolutely switch jobs for that. So there's that. It just is like super variable, really depends on where you work. It depends how many hours you work, right? If you work in a place that's 40 hours a week, you're going to make a little bit less. if you do private practice or something like that. And it also depends on if that place takes insurance or not, or if it's private pay, right? There's like all kinds of stuff, but there's all kinds of stuff. And so just keep looking for like what kind of fits your needs and fits your lifestyle and all that stuff. And so right now I love my free time. I like go home and then I just like mentally check out, and it's great. Oh, back to the private practice. I got paid only for the hour that I saw the client. So if I was doing notes outside of that hour, if I was doing treatment plan outside of that hour, if I was doing anything outside of the hour of seeing a client, I didn't get paid for that. So I was getting paid for 20 hours a week, maybe 25 when like it was good. And I was working like 30 plus. So it was not a fun time. And so, yeah, so there's that. Advice that I would have, a lot of my coworkers, colleagues, friends, everyone kind of working in psych, everyone has this thing of like imposter syndrome. And I called myself like, I'm this like little baby therapist. I called myself a baby therapist to my newest clients or my first clients or whatever. And they're like, no. And basically I just kind of realized and kind of found going through things that your clients, your patients, the people that you're working with, they think you know what you're talking about. So it doesn't matter that you don't. Or maybe you think you don't. Because like, for example, my brother is, I don't know, some kind of designer, some kind of, I think industrial designer, so something like that. And so he knows his stuff, right? And so for me, coming from a psych background, me going and talking to him, I don't know jack about what he's talking about. And so he might not know anything compared to the next industrial designer engineer person, but to someone who doesn't know actually anything about it, right? Like you know your stuff. Like you've taken multiple psych classes, you got multiple psych degrees, right? Like and that's not to say that like we're perfect or we know everything, but I have just found that not only do all of my clients think I know what I'm talking about anyway, like there is some sense to that, right? Like we have a lot of education, we have a lot of experience, we actually have a lot to go off of. And so what I like to do is I know I'm gonna make mistakes, but I kind of lean into that. Like I tell people like I'm gonna make mistakes, I'm gonna screw it up, whatever it is. But I also pretend that I know everything for my client's sake. I'm like, yeah, I totally know what I'm talking about. This is like, I really, I have practiced this thing and I have experience with this thing. Even if I don't feel like I am good at what I'm doing or if I know everything or whatever it is. And I will also be transparent with my clients. Like, I don't really know or whatever it is. But the more I have pretended that I don't question myself or that I am confident in this or I know what I'm doing or whatever it is, the more I have felt like, oh, really, truly, like I know what I'm doing. And I also question if there is even a point in questioning whether we know what we're doing or if I feel like an imposter or whatever, again, because all your clients think you know what you're talking about. And so there's not really even a point to like, well, what if they or whatever, because everyone thinks that you know what you're talking about. And so I have never come across a client except with borderline that questions me. And that's a whole thing in itself. Consistently, always doesn't stop. But people trust us for many reasons, but I don't think it's misplaced. And so I would offer to you, as I do with all my clients, I would offer to you that you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to question yourself. You don't have to think that something is going to happen, whatever it is, because the people that it means the most to, your clients, have all of the faith in you. And so it doesn't matter if you do or don't or whatever it is, because the people you're giving the care to absolutely 100% without question believe in you. So that's why that's the advice that I would give to all y'all.
Thank you. It's part of why I went into teaching was because I didn't want to work like that. I didn't want to be on all of the time. And I get summers off. I get holidays off. I get Christmas off. I have a month that's coming off right between winter and spring. So there's a big difference in terms of the type of work. But I will say, in terms of academically, I I work 7 days a week when I'm teaching. And my husband would say I don't have a good work balance, but it's just part of it. I'm grading all the time. I have people write their exams still, and so it's just a commitment to that. But then I get summers off and the winters off, which is fabulous. And for a full-time tenure track professor, I mean, when I started, I was probably making maybe upwards of 40 something thousand. And I had my PhD, right? And I'm like, that's kind of like not really a lot for going to school that long. But currently and I've been there for 26 years, I'm making almost 150,000 a year. And I get summers and breaks and everything. So it really is quite a wonderful livelihood. So when people talk about, I mean, to work as hard as some of my panelists here are doing, that's really challenging. I have, again, utmost respect, but I realized I didn't want to do that. And what I really wanted to do was and I don't mind working 7 days a week during the academic year. It's just part of what I need to do to stay on top of it and to do my best. But then I have the breaks. So I really appreciate that. So as I said, my husband would probably say I don't have a good work-life balance, but I play pickleball twice a week with one of your former presidents, Dr. Kathleen Rose. And, I see friends all the time and family, and I just feel like I have a great life. That's partly, again, why I say that this job is a gem. And it makes pretty good money now, where it didn't when we started. But it's quite good at that. So, yeah, so there's that. My schedule is I teach 15 hours in a week. 1-5. I teach 5 classes, and I teach Monday, Wednesday, 3 classes, and Tuesday, Thursday, I have 2 classes. So even though most people think that professors, that what mostly we do is teach, that's not what most of what we do. Most of what we do is prepare, grading, meetings, and many other things that don't kind of people realize. That takes up way more of our time than anything else. The teaching part is that's the blast. It's the other stuff really that we spend a lot of time doing. That's kind of the behind the scenes work. But again, still, do I have a satisfying amount of free time? Definitely, right? I mean, summer's off. And I decided for myself, I'm not going to teach during summers because I want to always have the energy. When I come in the fall, I'm excited. I become excited every day, you could probably tell. But when I come in, I see my fellow faculty who teach during the summer, they're exhausted. They do 6 weeks. It's fast-paced. They only have 2 weeks off. They come back in, they're tired in the fall. And they're like, now we have 16 more weeks to go, people, right? And I just decided for myself, I'm not going to do that. For me, my self-care is to take that time off, to spend time with my family, to be with loved ones. And so for me, that's kind of how I balance it. It may not look balanced like in terms of 7 days a week when I'm teaching, but it balances in a different way. So, and then my advice to many of you, as I said, graduate school to me is much more important to be worried about than your bachelor's degree. Like Amanda said, really go for your passion, go for what it is that you want. We need many more people, wonderful people in this field. The other thing I'm going to say is get mentors, get people, and I brought a lot of business cards, so you're welcome to talk with me, but reach out to people who are doing the things that you want to do. Because we know what that's like to not know what the next step is, right? Many people, of course, are first-generation college students, and they're like, my parents have no idea, and they can't advise me, so who do I talk to? Well, talk to people who are doing what you want to do, right? And ask them for an information interview. Don't ask for a job. Just say, hey, I'm really interested in your job, and people love to talk about themselves. So just find out, and a lot of times they will remember you and go, oh, I remember that you were interested in this. I wonder if you're still interested in this. So I would just really encourage you to have a lot of mentors, reach out to people, different people. And like I said, you could include me as one of those as well.
I'll take one of those cards. Thank you. Looking for mentors always. So as an associate marriage and family therapist, we are in transition. We're not fully licensed. So we make the most common average is about 50 to 60,000 a year, but it depends. So it depends. Like you were talking, Alexis? Yes. You're talking about, there's many factors, like, for example, if you work in accounting, mental health, private practice, nonprofit, it depends on the billing hours, so a lot, also on the caseload. So for me, I work, like I said, at Discovery, and it's a very flexible schedule. I work from Tuesday to Saturday, and I really like it because I choose my own clients, I choose my own schedule, and also it's very flexible. I get a lot of time. Actually, I'm looking another thing that you can do if you get a master's degree in psychology is teach, right? You could teach in a community college. So that's kind of that would be one of my goals to teach in a community college, especially maybe Gavilan College in the future, come back as this new role. But once you get your license, you get a raise, and licensed marriage and family therapists in California make around 88 to 116 a year. So that's an increase. And to get your license, it depends. It might take up to like 2 to 4 years, again, depending how many hours you're putting in, and if you're working in a like full time, part time. And what livelihood has afforded me, it has allowed me to travel. I love traveling. I've been to South America 4 times. I stayed in Colombia for a month, and it was such an enriching experience. So it helps me support myself, and to definitely, it's deeply fulfilling because it's a field, a job that it really aligns with my my values. So it's quite fulfilling. And what advice I would give to psychology majors? I would say take care of yourself. I would say in this field, you're your greatest asset. So nurture your well-being, which is part of your education, not separate. Stay curious, stay open and receptive to learning about others and yourself. And yes, could get really challenging at times, but it's doable with purpose, commitment, and persistence. Take one step at a time. Sometimes it's one breath at a time. But you got this. We need you. We do need you. We need more people in this field. So yes, thank you.
Yeah, so I'm also part of the government, so you can look up my pay. Last time I checked, it was $41.93 per hour. Very specific too. But I will say though, like when I had my bachelor's and I was working with that too, you can definitely see that there's like the staggered pay with that, right? I think with my bachelor's, I was finding jobs for like 25, maybe 28, not anything, everything less than 30 an hour, in which, let's be honest, you can't survive on over here. So getting my master's, I was able to finally start getting jobs that were like around, I think my first job out of their permanent supported housing, I was making 42 an hour right out of a master's. I was like, I'll take it. After making nothing, I'll take it. What does my schedule look like right now? Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. I do work a little bit late some days just to see clients because, let's be honest, people who really need our help too are probably working during our working hours, so they can't really get services at that time. And so I'll stay a little bit late, meet clients, and be able to connect with them that way. Do I have a satisfying amount of free time? I mean, I'm really lazy and I just really want to have more free time. So, I mean, like, if you want to give me like 3 or 4 days of doing nothing, I'll take it. But right now, I mean, I'm happy with my weekends. Where I work too, they have a lot of a decent PTO and sick time. So it's pretty much like we accrue fairly regularly. So I'm able to take time off pretty easily too. And my advice, two pieces. I got 2 things of advice. One, kind of what she was saying earlier, curiosity. When you're going to meet with your clients, especially the difficult clients, because there's going to be difficult clients, being curious can help you get through it, right? You'll be like dreading it. Oh, God, I have to talk to this person for an hour. I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I don't know what they're going to say and stuff like that. But just ask why. Be curious, right? And try to keep your judgments to the back. As for the second piece of advice, honestly, kind of what I learned with this most recent job is that the work is always gonna be there, It's never going to go away. It's never going to magically disappear. So with that in mind, give yourself that break. Go home. Don't stay super late. Once the clock hits 5, turn off your notes. Have like, like Men in Black with the little thing eraser thing, right? That's what I do. As soon as I walk through that door, I put on my jams and I'm driving on home, gonna go see my cat. But the work will always be there. Documentation will be there. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't slack it off. Don't be like, oh, I'm not gonna document ever, right? But give yourself that grace, right? You're potentially gonna be working in a very difficult field, working with human emotions and relationships, and yeah, we need that break too. It's difficult for us.
Such good advice, like genuinely, just like not advice you would get, not standard advice at all. Like really, you guys are drawing on your experiences, and I appreciate that. So let's take the moment now where you can all come down and again like reload on snacks and approach the panelists individually. But since this is the last moment that I'll address the whole group, I'll just say I'm so encouraged, to see you all here, the next generation of people entering the field. And to the panelists, honestly, what I want to say is I feel secure in knowing that my children are inhabiting a world where people like you are doing the things you do. Like the positive impact that you're having on the world is truly incalculable. And I just appreciate it. It makes me feel emotional because you're all like working really hard to do crucially important work. So thank you. And thank you also for spending your evening with us and sharing about your experiences. And also I wanted to thank Grant Richards, the man behind the camera over here, who teaches film and television here at Gavilan. So thank you for bringing this beautiful technology and capturing this event. Much appreciated. So at this moment, please feel free to come on down, approach the panelists, introduce yourself, and ask your questions. Maybe we should do a big round of applause. Yeah? I think so.